Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into something really fascinating and demystifying one of the absolute biggest, most complex, and frankly, most emotional decisions a founder will ever make. We're talking about determining exactly when it's time to sell your business. We are going to break down the real psychological and financial triggers behind a sale, so you can see exactly how and why these deals actually come to life.
You know, there's this classic piece of wisdom you've probably heard: to everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under heaven. Well, that actually hits the nail on the head when it comes to business ownership. Think about it. There's the chaotic startup phase, the crazy growth phase, the maturation phase, and eventually, whether we actively plan for it or not, the season to exit finally arrives. The whole trick is just recognizing which season you're actually in before it's too late.
Our roadmap for today comes straight from the insights in The Private Equity Advantage by Scott Hanson. And what's cool is this isn't just some dry academic theory. Hanson is a founder who has literally lived in the M&A trenches. He built and sold his own company, scaled it with private equity money, and he's bought dozens of companies from other founders. He's been on every single side of the negotiating table, which really gives us a crystal clear insider's view of the whole process.
Let's bring this down to earth and make it real. Meet Sarah. She's been running her environmental consulting firm for 23 years. The business is crushing it, pulling in $15 million in annual revenue. By every traditional metric out there, she has completely made it. But as she sits in her office sipping her morning coffee, this heavy realization just washes over her. She has zero time for her family. Her wildly successful company is totally consuming her life. It's left her with almost no room for anything else.
And that right there illustrates the intense, internal tug-of-war so many founders face. As Sarah even just thinks about stepping away, her mind immediately spirals into these terrifying questions. What would selling mean for my employees? Are they going to get fired? What about my clients who rely on me? What happens to my legacy? It's so important to put ourselves in her emotional shoes for a second and feel that weight. Because selling, it's not just a math problem or a financial transaction. For a founder, it's a massive identity shift.
Because here's the reality, and Hanson points this out brilliantly. No one is for sale until they are for sale. Founders don't usually just wake up on a random Tuesday and decide, yep, I'm selling the company today, out of nowhere. There is almost always a specific, unavoidable triggering event that kicks the whole process off. It's that catalyst that finally tips the scales from just staying the course to actually seeking an exit.
So here is how we're going to break this all down today. We'll look at the tipping point, life and personal shifts, securing financial futures, navigating business complexities, the private equity path, and finally, planning your next chapter.
All right, let's jump right into our first big theme, life and personal shifts. Really, the human element of selling.
When we look at personal triggers, it's kind of a mixed bag, right? On one hand, you've got the positive stuff, retirement dreams, the urge to finally just relax on a beach or spend real uninterrupted time with the grandkids. But on the other hand, well, actually there are some pretty dark, painful realities too. Things like sudden burnout, where your passion for the daily grind just completely evaporates, and sending a single email feels like lifting a boulder, or an unexpected health emergency, or maybe that sudden panicky realization that you have absolutely no clear successor if something were to happen to you. Eventually, biology forces your hand.
Get this, 58%. According to the data, a staggering 58% of workers are forced to retire earlier than they actually planned. And the number one reason? Health-related issues. I mean, really think about that. If your business depends entirely on you, an unexpected illness won't just sideline you for a few weeks. It can force a fire sale at a massive discount, practically wiping out the value you've spent your entire life building. It's a pretty stark reminder that we are not always the ones in control of our own timelines.
Which brings up a seriously fascinating psychological challenge from M&A expert David DeVoe. He says you need to ask yourself honestly, are you ready to play golf 24/7, or are you ready to lose your whole identity? This just perfectly highlights the sheer danger of an unplanned exit. You have got to know who you're going to be after the ink dries on that contract. If you don't, that void can be absolutely devastating. So many founders have their entire self-worth wrapped up in their title, so stripping that away without a game plan is incredibly risky. Moving right along to our next section, securing financial futures. This is all about the money and the risk play.
You know, founders inevitably hit this profound turning point. They wake up and realize, hey, making another $1 million isn't actually going to change my day-to-day life. But losing what I've already built, that would completely destroy it. So the triggers start to shift. They sell to lock in that generational wealth for their family. They sell because, let's face it, as you get older, your personal risk tolerance drops. You just don't want to personally guarantee a multi-million-dollar business loan anymore. Or, sometimes a strategic buyer knocks on the door and throws down an offer that is literally just too good to pass up.
Now, what we're looking at right here is honestly terrifying for a lot of aging founders. It is so common to see a business owner right on the edge of retirement with over 90% of their entire net worth locked up inside one single illiquid asset, their company. That extreme lack of diversification, it's a massive liability. If the industry pivots or the economy takes a nosedive, everything is at risk. That concentrated wealth becomes a huge trigger to sell, simply to take some chips off the table and finally breathe a little easier.
But check this out. This fact might completely blow your mind. 60% of sellers do not take the highest bid. No way, right? You'd think it's all about top dollar, but it's really not. Finding a good cultural fit, ensuring post-sale happiness, and taking care of the employees who helped you build the thing often completely trump the highest offer. At the end of the day, it's about who you want to spend the next few years of your life working alongside. And nobody wants to sell their baby to a jerk, no matter how big the check is.
Okay, let's dive into Section 3, Navigating Business Complexities, which we call the operational shift. Imagine your industry is just rapidly consolidating, competitors gobbling each other up left and right. Suddenly, you're trying to compete against these mammoth, newly formed corporate giants with ridiculously deep pockets and way better tech. To even stay in the game, you're dealing with exhausting business complexity, or you desperately need expansion capital that you just cannot get from a traditional local bank anymore. At this point, the business has literally outgrown you. Bringing in heavy-hitting outside help isn't just an option, it's the only way to survive.
Which perfectly sets us up for our fourth part, the private equity path and choosing your post-sale reality.
Because here's the thing, selling doesn't automatically mean you just toss the keys and walk away forever. It's actually a fork in the road, with two very different post-sale realities. First, you've got the ambitious empire builder. You sell a chunk of your business, step up as the CEO of a platform firm, and use private equity money to go on a massive buying spree yourself. But contrast that with the tired professional. Maybe you just want to return to your trade. You sell so you can shed all those miserable admin tasks, the payroll, the leases, the HR headaches, and just get back to doing the actual craft you love and seeing your clients.
Let's loop back to Sarah for a second. Her personal burnout has perfectly collided with her industry's operational consolidation. She's looking around and admitting, I know there is a lot of consolidation happening in my industry right now. When that very human exhaustion hits the wall of a shifting, complex market, it creates the ultimate tipping point. For Sarah, and honestly so many founders just like her, it's a giant neon sign flashing that it is time to sell.
So that brings us to our final section, planning your next chapter and looking at life after the sale.
The absolute most critical heavy lifting actually happens in your own head long before you ever sign a term sheet. I want to quickly walk you through 3 simple logical steps to make sure you're proactively planning your exit rather than just reacting to a crisis. Step 1. Envision your ideal life in 5 to 10 years. Be specific. What do your days actually look like? Step 2. Identify your primary selling trigger. What is actually pushing you to the exit door? Be super honest with yourself. And step 3, evaluate if the business depends entirely on you. Because if it does, you've got to fix that immediately if you want to build any real transferable value. So, I'm going to leave you with one final provocative question to chew on today. Is your business running you, or are you running your business? Take a really hard look at your time, your risk, and your overall happiness. Because understanding what season you're in and preparing for that inevitable transition, that is your ultimate advantage. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and we will catch you on the next one.